Yo YouTube, what's going on? Welcome back to another quick little video, and Riot Games don't like me. As soon as I post out a Viper guide on Breeze, they decide to hit us with a Viper patch notes, along with Cypher. I think at the start of that video, I literally say Viper and Cypher, the two most important agents right now in the meta, at least when it comes to like Breeze, and they decide to hit us with this. So Viper, major nerfs. Cypher, not so much. So let's go over a quick little thing. Chamber, we don't care. He's irrelevant. Get him out. If you know me, I despise that agent. Now, Cypher, it's all to do with the tripwires, and then there's something to do with the cam. So first of all, Cypher's trips increase of an alarm time. So when we run through a tripwire, instead of it instantly activating again after 1 second, it's gone up to 2. This, I think, is pretty good in terms of ranked. If you're playing ranked, even in high IMO, people still don't know how to play against Cypher tripwires. I think when it comes to my games now, especially when it comes to Breeze, I'll go, right, guys, we're instantly going to go B, and we're going to break these tripwires, main priority. Cypher, we're seeing him a lot more in VCT as well. If we look at Evil Geniuses, I'm pretty sure, yeah, even NRG are running Cypher on a lot of maps now, especially Lotus being a bit of a shift. But yeah, in my opinion, I think Cypher is pretty weak in terms of the basic fundamentals. If you're a caller, you know how to play against a Cypher. You would rather play against a Cypher more than anything, in a way, because the cam is the only real thing that's hard to break. The tripwires, you can break it really easily with a nice, clean, slow default. You know, if we're playing Lotus, for example, we insta-send a nade over to C, break that Cypher tripwire, and then it means that, oh shit, we've now got to play heavy on C. Compared to, like, if we look at how Paper X played Cypher on Lotus at the start of, I think, kickoff, it was a case of Forsaken would run to C, he'd put his tripwires down, and then he'd go play A, and you just play retake on C, and you have constant info. But against a good caller, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And then slow on tripwire reduced from 2 to 1.25. So honestly, not that big changes in my opinion. Sort of, I think if there's anything about this patch, it is noob friendly, and it's really frustrating. Because, in my opinion, now I think with a lot of these updates, I'd rather Valorant, or Riot Games at least, have like a tournament mode where we're not having these changes. We'll get onto the cam in a second, but the VCT pros have a higher level of gameplay compared to ranked. Ranked, you can have this noob-friendly sort of updates and changes that's almost spoon-feeding you how to play the game. It really just does narrow the skill level, in my opinion. But yeah, so they've noticed that they're hiding Cypher cams and continually watching enemies without them knowing. This is so stupid, in my opinion. It is the most noob-friendly thing that Riot Games could possibly do to Valorant, and it's going, yo, if you're gonna put a cam, let's say on Breeze B site on top of the bricks, we're gonna let the enemies know that you're watching them, which almost nullifies the point of a Cypher cam. There's only so many Cypher cams you can really place, I would say. And this sort of just makes Cypher cams pretty shit, because as soon as you're spotted, the information's gone. Compared to it being like, if we look at VCT, you as a player should be aware of the overpowered cams, and you should be able to break it instantly, or at least have the knowledge of where they're being placed. So they've ordered an audio telegraph, who are quietly moving, a queue, they're being watched. I think what a lot of people seem to be talking about is the Yoru ult effect. This seems to be the same sort of UI HUD, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, they can hear looping audio whenever they're being watched by Cypher. This, for me, is just disappointing. This massively lowers the skill gap. It basically rewards enemies for not knowing how Cypher cams work and stuff. And if you're a guy, or, you know, if you're a player that, you know, like to cook up new cameras and setups, this basically makes it pointless, because no matter where your cam's going to be, they're going to be able to spot it, I would assume. Now, what I'm curious about is how this actually goes about in the game. So can you just cam in and out and just get that information? And then does it make it a little bit more difficult for people to realize they're being watched? I think this is going to be something we're going to have to see in-game more than anything and see how it works. I just hope it's not going to be something that basically destroys Cypher, in general. And now Viper. We'll get onto the main course, we'll call it, right? This is crazy. Now, I don't think I need to remind any of you, but VCT Masters Shanghai is literally a couple weeks away. And you are nerfing the main agent in the majority of the maps. We look at Lotus, Viper, Icebox, Viper, Bind, Viper. Ascent, you can play Viper. We look at Loud. Loud are playing a Viper comp, so are FPX. A lot of teams are balancing with the meta at the moment. So they've reduced the total smoke time, snake bites, everything really. So max uptime on each individual smoke reduced from 15 seconds to 12. So if you want to put your wall and bubble up, that is not going to last long at all. Minimum fuel needed to activate a smoke, so that's gone from 20% to 30%. So the little bar at the bottom of your HUD, that now means that you need to charge your fuel a lot quicker, or you need to conserve a lot of your fuel if you want to, use the wall to fake presence and stuff like that. Reactivating smokes after putting them reduced from 8 to 5. Okay. That sort of does nothing, I would say, because if it's what I'm thinking, it's like, well, you've got 30%, so yeah, you can put them up a lot quicker, but you've got to have 30% fuel to activate them anyway, so it seems pretty stupid. And Poison Cloud. This is crazy. You can only now put your bubble up, or bubble down, sorry, at the start of the buy phase. So like a Cypher cage, if you put it down, you can't pick it up mid-round. It's there then. I think this is going to be interesting because it's going to change the agent compositions for a lot of teams. If we look at, like I said, Lotus would be a great example. What teams and players do a lot is they will send their Viper when attacking on A to basically gain some map control by throwing the bubble and the wall down on A site, and you will keep lifting the bubble up and throwing it into certain locations to deny info. So you can't do that anymore. Wherever you throw your bubble, that is it for the whole round. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I don't necessarily think it's going to change the game too much. It's just going to make it so if you're a player, you have to know that when you're throwing this bubble down, you cannot move it anymore. So you've got to make sure you're getting the most out of your bubble placements. Viper Molly's gone down from 2 to 1. Increase in price, and the duration's been increased. Basically, you can't play post plant anymore. If you're going to use your bubble, which is going to be so hard to do, like in ranked, it's probably going to be more likely. But if you're a team playing Breeze and you're defaulting mid, you'll throw the VCT bubble, you can't play after plant. You can't play post plant with mollies anymore. I think the reduction in molly is pretty good. I think if you're a big watcher of VCT, the meta at the moment is that you'll do like a 5v5 retake, for example. So it means that if you're pushing A site on Icebox, for example, you aren't going to get double mollied. So you can probably get the molly down a lot easier, or the bomb down, sorry. Yeah, so pretty severe changes overall. What I want to quickly go ahead and do, though, is I actually want to go on Valoplant and just show you guys, or at least the maps that I think Viper is still viable on. So I think Bind is a great example. If we look at the default lurk wall, so it'll be something like this, you don't really want to throw this bubble here anymore, to be honest. I think what would work a lot better, if we look at like Heretics, and I think Koi do it as well. I'm not too sure on Koi actually, but I know a lot of teams are starting to use an Omen smoke. We'll get a one-way long. I think this, as an alternative, could be pretty good because you're doing the exact same as you would be normally with the default, but you've still got your Viper bubble, so you could instead smoke elbow, you could one-way CT. I think we're going to start seeing a lot of smokes instead of the bubble placements. I think more importantly, I think Viper will still be played on this map just because of the overall lurk presence that you can get. But for example, if you're a defender, we'll probably still see the DRX bubble. you know, where you can delay the plant, you can cancel the plant so many times. You know, the wall is still going to be so overpowered. I think there's two ways that this game's going to go. Either we're going to go from a double controller to maybe a single controller and a Cypher. But I still think that Viper's wall and utility in general is still going to be really, really strong. You've just got to be careful in how you're using it, and make sure that you're not wasting any of your gas, your molly. But I still think she's going to be strong on bind. What's another map we can look at? Breeze. I don't think this will change that much. Maybe for teams, it will. You know, if we look at DRX, Gen G have been one of the first teams to really show the dominant like Astra Viper comp. I think that if you're a VCT team, yeah, you will probably opt for a secondary controller here. Because if you're going to put your bubble there, I don't know, it really depends. I think that this Viper change really now opens up the meta even more. The only issue is this update is coming out after Shanghai. So if you're a Shanghai team going to compete, you will have to, let's say you're trying to win Shanghai. You're going in, you've got your normal comps, your normal metas. As soon as you finish, you have to then come back and change all of your compositions, or at least go, right, okay, what do we want to do? How do we want to approach the game, the maps, our agent compositions? So if you're a team that isn't making Shanghai, I would say there's a pretty big chance that you can upset a lot of good teams that are coming back from Shanghai with a new taste in the meta and the comps. So you know, if you're a team like Evil Geniuses, let's say, whose Shanghai chances aren't looking the greatest, there's such a big chance that these guys can make champions. So yeah, I think it's pretty fun and interesting. Icebox, this won't change at all. You know, if we're playing defense, you'll still have this Viper bubble. You'll still have the default wall. This won't change much. If you're on attack, you'll always still bubble mid, and you'll do your wall for here. So to be honest, I think the only maps this drastically affects, Split is another interesting one. Do we want to opt for a double initiator, or do we want to go double controller? Sunset, I think any teams that are running a double controller, this is probably quite useless now, I would say, especially with, you know, top teams dominating with the Breach Fade comp or Breach Gecko. I think that's sort of set in stone. Now, I briefly spoke about it before, but Ascent. Teams like FPX, I think Cloud9 have run it in the past. We've got Loud. We aren't able to do this double controller comp anymore, I don't think. Especially with this, on Ascent, you can't pick up your bubbles anymore. So how do you want to approach this sort of composition on Ascent attack when you can't, you know, manipulate your bubbles by throwing it down short and then picking it back up again and, you know, using it in that way? I think this basically does just shut off the double controller comp on this map. And then, you know, FPX have recently beat EDG with it, and it was pretty dominant. Look at map 3, 13 full scoreline. I don't think we can run this comp anymore. At least we probably could, but we're not going to get the same value that we once would if we were using it before. So yeah, I think if you're a VCT team competing at Masters, if your chances looked slim of going to champions after it, I think even now they're lower than they've ever been. Because not only are you showing all your cards at Masters, but you've got then 10 days when you come back to go, shit, how do we now want to deal with this Viper composition? How do we want to play it? How do we want to approach the maps? We've got to change a lot of stuff. So not only, if we look at Sentinels, for example, they've not made playoffs yet. It's looking unlikely that they are. But not only have you got to re-evaluate yourself and almost change the way you play as a team, change your identity, but now you've also got to change your Viper compositions. To be honest, if I'm Sentinels, I'm happy I've missed Shanghai. Thank God we've not made that event. We've already done Masters. We won Madrid. We showed that we're a dominant team, and we've shown that we have the ability to be a top team and win. But now they've also got ahead of the curve, and they're going, right, okay, this change is massive. We can chill, we can relax a little bit, you know, not get burnt out as we once were in stage 1, but we can also change our composition so that as soon as the top teams come back from Shanghai, we can smoke them because we know how to play against, you know, with the changes. But yeah, I think pretty big changes overall. In ranked, I don't think it's going to change much. You know, on certain maps maybe, but I think in VCT tier 2, tier 3, this is going to change the meta massively. But yeah, that's it for today's quick little video. Yeah, if you want any other videos, analysis, VCT, VOD reviews, whatever, put it in the comments and I will do it. I'm really trying to up my content game. But yeah, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitch. And yeah, if you like the video, follow, subscribe, do whatever you do on YouTube. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.